Hi, sorry. Let me turn this around. There we go. Sorry. Okay, here we go. And this. Can everyone hear me okay? Sorry, I just need to pull up my YouTube here. Hi, Herb. Hi, Gabor. Good. Just a little tiny bit of setup because I'm a little late, as always. How is everyone today? Okay, let's see. Let's make sure that all of these are fine. Okay, cool. So for those of you who have been following this live stream for a little while, in a couple of earlier streams, I worked on this painting, which is ink and watercolor. It's a forest floor scene, and it's a series of 3 that are a commission. I've had a kind of a tough week, but I'm happy to be here. Anyway, so I am working on this commission. So it's a series of 3 little paintings, and they're all little forest floor scenes. I actually went out with my client, it's a friend of mine, to scout out some possible subjects. And so they're all forest floor species that are local to here. And so now I am painting the next one, which is this daddy longlegs or harvestman. It's an Opiliones species, which they're arachnids, but unlike spiders, they don't have a sectioned body. They just have one little ball of a body, basically. And some people in the original stream where I started this sketch commented that that made them look sort of cute and less scary. So hopefully I won't be alienating too many people by painting a spider on stream. And then, yeah, so I'll be starting that in a moment. But I know that people tend to sort of trickle in right at the beginning of the stream, so I thought I'd start out with a little bit of show and tell, as I sometimes do. So I just ordered some stuff from an illustrator who I really admire, Holly Exley, who's also on YouTube. And so these 2 are 2 games or products, I guess, that are done by Holly Exley. And so I figured, I feel like my chat might be frozen. One moment. Let me try this again. Oh, maybe not. Okay. So, so there's this tree vision. Actually, I'm going to start with the other one. So she did two of these things, and I think there's an order to them. So the match a leaf game came first. And so what this has is a series of cards. And so each set of 2 cards, there'll be, like, for example, a red maple, and then the tree that goes with it, and Grandidier's baobab, and then the image of the tree. So this one's a game, like a matching game. And so I thought this would be fun, but I heard about the game when she published a video about the identification cards. And I thought these were really interesting because these have all of the different parts of each tree, so that when you're out walking, you can ideally go look at a tree and identify it by all of its different parts. Now I will say I've gone through this, and being a botanical artist and having done a project where I painted a leaf every day for a year, I've learned a little bit about trees, and there's a few things about this set. I don't think it's Holly's fault. I think she was given an assignment and she painted what she was told to paint. But there's a few cases where I have an issue with how these are, how these are presented. So, sorry, this is a maple. Let's see if I can find it. Where my issues were. Not this one. Okay, so here's one that's an issue for me. And let's see if I can find the other ones. There were a couple. And I'll go through why you have to be careful with botanical art, because you can get some misleading things happening. Was it? Nope, not that. Did I miss it? Cedar, juniper, yew. Anyway, so on the back, there'll be some information about the tree, and on the front is these illustrations. Maybe it was this. Okay. So I haven't looked through all of them too carefully, but 2 jumped out at me as having inaccuracies. So the first one is this sycamore. And so this, here they say Platanus occidentalis. And then they show you a sycamore leaf, but then they show you 2 different things. And one of them is an American sycamore, and one of them is a sycamore maple, and those are 2 completely different, they're not related trees. And so they have a variety of fruit that's this ball thing here, which is the American sycamore, which is Platanus occidentalis, which has this ball, and then they have this maple key shown as a variety of fruit, because there's something called a sycamore maple. But it's not a related species, so I don't think that they really belong here. I think that that's just confusing to people. Hi, Dan. And then likewise, this American chestnut, beautiful illustrations. The fruit here all makes sense, but here she's showing 1 leaf, but a chestnut has, there's a different variety of chestnut in here that shows it better. But chestnuts have a palmate leaf. Like, so she's showing one leaf like this in the American chestnut, but that's not what an American chestnut leaf looks like. An American chestnut leaf, this is just a leaflet. The American chestnut will have 5 leaves, a palmate leaf like this that's got 5 leaves all attached together. So I don't think that this is Holly's fault at all. I suspect that she was given an assignment about what exactly she's supposed to paint, but I feel like there wasn't enough botanist review in designing this product, so it's a little bit misleading, which is a bit upsetting in some of, like, as an identification product. But that said, those are just the two things I noticed. In general, I think it's really great, and I love how it's laid out, where there's there's all of these different ways that you can identify a tree. So there's the shape of the overall tree, and they have both summer and winter. They show the bark, the little twigs, and what the buds look like, what the flowers look like, what the fruit looks like, what the fruit looks like inside, or the variety. So yeah, I think that's pretty neat. I really like them, but yeah, this is what happens when you nerd out on something too much, is I really love this, I love the concept, I love most of the execution, and I couldn't help myself. I looked through these and I was like, oh, that's not right. If you need anything, shout me. Cleaning out the rats while listening in. Okay, cool, thanks. Yeah, so that's kind of a neat product. Here's a question, guys. I have a little space heater thing, and I can hear it quite clearly as I'm talking. Is there like a whooshing sound in the background for you guys? Because I can just turn it off. Okay, good. Glad to hear. Thanks. I can hear it, but it isn't bothersome. Okay, good. If it does get bothersome, just let me know. I can turn it off. It's getting a little bothersome for me anyway, but yeah. So that's that. So then there's this little thing. Did I crop this too close? I did. Sorry, one moment. I'm gonna need to adjust this thing, I think. Unfortunately. I'm just looking at this and I realized that somehow I put that in too close. I taped it too close. It's like it's different dimensions from the other one, so I'm going to need to fix that. Oh, that's annoying. What am I going to use to fix this? Okay, yes, it says it's not audible. Your audio is awesome. I'm very excited to get into all your live videos. The skills you have are just wow. Thanks. Thank you. That's so sweet of you. Okay. Okay, so I think I just need to fix this. This is supposed to be 5 by 7 and I somehow screwed this up. Yeah. So that's a little too bad. I pull this up and put it back over, say, here. Maybe even a little bit more. Yeah, I'm not sure why or how I managed this, but I taped this wrong. Okay, so I'm gonna need to re-jig that. Hi Kelly, how are you? So let's get this image, this palette here. All right, and let's just make sure that, oh, there we go. Okay. Hi, Stephen. How are you? Okay, so I messed this up and I just didn't extend this far enough. So this is gonna have like a weird line that I'm gonna need to soften off somehow because I taped this wrong. So we are going to add some more color, and hopefully the extra layers over time are going to fix this line here. So I wanted to show you this because when I painted this one, I showed you the first layer, and then I did a few more layers in between, and then I did another live stream the next day where I did a little bit more of the detail. But I wanted to show you this one, which I had sketched out in a previous live stream, and what it looks like at the first layer. And so I just do a very, very simple sketch in ink, very, very minimal drawing ahead of starting to build up the watercolor. And I'd build up most of my detail in layers afterwards, both ink and watercolor, and just sort of figure out how everything fits in after I have an initial plan. So my initial drawing is just for the plan, and then to tie everything together, I try to do a wash with some of the basic areas of color of the piece, so that I'm not just coloring in each individual section, and so that it all comes together at the end. At least that's the notion. I try to keep it pretty light and leave some areas of pure white, so that I will have a full value range. It's actually kind of neat when I'm doing these because some of the colors lift up. I will be using masking fluid as well. And so when I apply masking fluid and then lift it back up again, the colors underneath lift up more too, so that helps it pop up as well. Love the negative daddy long legs. Thank you. So yeah, I think that's my next thing, is I'm going to paint that in later, but first I'm gonna use some masking fluid and mask off that spider and maybe some other areas. I hate masking fluid. I hate masking fluid so much. Okay, actually, before I serve myself up some masking fluid, let's make sure that I have a dip pen to use with this one. I have to dig around. Okay, so usually when I do a masking fluid layer, I use a dip pen, but I don't have my dip pen for some reason. So instead I'm going to try using a ruling pen. I don't know what I did to my dip pen. Okay. Oh. All right. And then I'm gonna go up here. So I have in one of my videos, one of my recent videos, I talked about using masking fluid. And I've started using masking fluid quite a bit in my work because it has some really neat effects that I like. But it is the grossest, the absolute grossest material I have ever seen. Like, look at this grossness. It's so bad. Okay, I need to wipe this off. It dries like rubber. It's, ugh. Ugh. It smells bad too. I hate masking fluid. I hate masking fluid. Stinky, yes. Can you show us exactly how you use the ruling pen, please? Well, the good news for you is I haven't used a ruling pen much, so I'm going to be experimenting on video. Usually I use a dip pen, like a, like a nib, but I don't know what I did to my nib pen. So, oh, here it is. Okay, I'll show you both. Sorry, I pushed things off my desk because I like pretending that I'm not a disaster human. So I push things off the screen so that you only see, some parts of my desk. And then I shoved the... So usually I use this, which is like a nib holder, and this is an extra fine mapping nib, I think. I don't know. I got it for a workshop at some point. And I just dip that in. So I'll start with that actually. So I dip that in. And the trick is you need to have a really liquid masking fluid. So I use Winsor Newton, which is probably the stinkiest and the grossest of the masking fluids, but it's also very liquid. And then I can just draw on, and I can make like really fine lines with this. So that's what I usually use, but because I got out the ruling pen, let's try that too. I imagine it works just the same. I got the ruling pen for this purpose. And then I took that workshop with the dip pen, and that worked fine, so then I never really used the ruling pen. I guess the ruling pen has the advantage of being adjustable, so you can draw... I don't feel like this ruling pen is really drawing. So there's your answer. Oh no, sorry. Here it is. It's drawing, but it's drawing. I need to draw it right on the side like this. And I need to adjust it really fine if I want a really fine line. It's a bit blobbier. Let's try even finer. Yeah, I mean, that'll be good for the body. So I can make slightly more line, like I can make a somewhat wider line if I use the ruling pen, and like fill in this body here. But then I think for the legs, I will use the dip pen. Surely Pebeo is the grossest. I don't know. Isn't Pebeo the latex-free one? Have you tried? Or you know what? Actually, this might be a shared experience. Stephen, didn't you have a terrible experience with the what was it called? The masking fluid pens as well. That we both tried a masking fluid pen. What was the brand of that? Do you remember? I tried masking fluid pens, and those were admittedly worse. But a lot of the masking fluids at least don't smell as bad as the Winsor & Newton one. The Schminke doesn't smell as bad. The SciArt, I guess, doesn't smell as bad, but they're just a little bit less runny, which makes it a little bit more difficult to draw lines. So with a dip pen, you can just get an extra fine nib and dip it in. You need to make sure that your masking fluid is very, very runny. Like you want it to be like milk. So don't shake it up. Make sure that you get a new container of it. But you can draw really, really fine lines with this. Yeah, Molotov. That's the one. Right. You're right, Kelly. Yeah, the Molotov pens are terrible. I don't know who they work for, like who they tested that product on, because they're so bad. Okay, I'm gonna put this one away. Herb Crown says, I bought a ruling pen for exactly the same purpose. The lines were awful. I don't use masking fluid much, but I would like to occasionally. Okay, yeah, I'm not super impressed with this ruling pen situation. The best combination I've found is, and again, this doesn't make masking fluid a pleasant experience. I don't think there's anything that makes masking fluid a pleasant experience, but just a standard nib holder and an extra fine nib, and you just dip it in like you would dip it into ink, and it will, you just sort of work it around. Make sure that you don't have a big blob. It helps to run it, on a scrap piece of paper. Make sure that you can draw some lines, and it needs to be really, really thin masking fluid is the other trick here. But otherwise, this is at least, easy to use, because I hadn't had any, I found applying it with a brush really inaccurate and also destructive to brushes. I found applying it with a color shaper was terrible. Applying it with a toothpick was terrible. The ruling pen is not my favorite. So, yeah, this is the best I've found. Gabriella says, I have 2 Molotov masking fluid pens, but I don't like them. They scratch the paper, tint the paper blue, one ruin the paper so bad. Yeah, that was my experience with those as well. And the nib washes up okay. Yeah, so this is the nice thing about applying with a nib, is the stuff just turns to rubber, and then you just peel it off. So you'll find if you're masking off, like if you're painting, a whole bunch of little spots or something on a paper, painting all of these legs, and the masking fluid will start drying up on the nib. And in fact, we can just play this game. I'll wave it in front of my space heater under my desk. And it will turn to rubber. But then the thing about it turning to rubber is you just sort of peel it off, and it's gross. You have to peel it off. Turns into this skin, but then it just comes right up. And good as new. Yeah, I didn't know if it would gum up the middle bit. Yeah, it does. I mean, I've had this same nib for months, years now. In fact, it's been over a year since I started using this specific nib. And it's still working the same as when I got it. The other advantage of this particular tool is if I need to replace any part of it, it's cheap. Kelly says, I didn't have good luck with the fine liner masking fluid pens. No, I didn't either. Those are that's the one that's like a little bottle with the needle point on it. Because I'd sworn off masking fluid. And the truth is, I still hate it, but it is so useful, and I like having the ability to do things like this where I'm a little bit looser with most of my painting, and then I just add in details on top. And you can't really do that if you're trying to paint around diddly little highlights. So masking fluid is useful to me. It's sort of a necessary evil. But yeah, I hate it. Hard bit done, looking good. Almost. Yeah, sometimes you need to sort of hold it to the side to see which parts have been painted over, so there's still a little bit of fluid areas to paint. So that's painted. Are you painted? No. Okay. Yep. Yep. Let's bring this forward a little. And bring my lighting forward. Hey, Alex! Ooh, are we drawing the totally not cartoon buttless daddy long legs? Yes, we are! Yes, we are! How was your meeting? Or do you not want to talk about it? Okay, so next, let's pull up some pictures and see if there's any other parts of this that I want to mask. Okay. Let's try this one here. Message. Yeah, so I got a whole bunch of these images. Oh, right. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so we're sort of basing on this for the most part. All right. Let's try to maybe up a little. It's tough trying to figure out what the right setup for this camera is. And let's not reflect on that so much. Oh boy, if you were to make a drinking game out of It Would Be a Real Shame, you'd be dead right now. Alex versus management, stalemate. Except some great drinking game ideas. Grab the bourbon. Well, I'm glad you're being positive about it, Alex. Okay, so next. Next, I need to build up some of these shapes. And I let the paint do some of the work here. And now I'm gonna shove my palette out of the way briefly so that I'm not occupying too much room here. But what I'm gonna try to do is create this sort of ledge sort of situation here. And let's make sure that my pen is still working. It is. Good. And then right beside this pen line, I'm going to apply, so this pen line that I'm drawing will be the edge of the shadow here. And then right beside it, I will apply a line of masking fluid, and the masking fluid will actually pick up some of this brown stuff and create more of a contrast. Except we're out of bourbon, alas. Oh well, my shift ends in 1 hour, 22 minutes. TikTok, baby. Okay, and so then we're gonna apply this here, and let's. So the neat thing about drawing this wood sort of stuff is that I'm basing myself on some real images to get some plausible shapes, but I'm combining them and mashing them up, and I don't need to be too terribly exact about this, because the truth is wood can rot in a lot of different arrangements, so as long as it's a plausible shape, it doesn't matter if it's the exact shape. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm doing exactly what the reference says. As long as it doesn't need to be an exact duplicate of this picture. In fact, it's obviously not. There's a spider that I pulled from elsewhere. Yeah. So I do have line there, and we can draw more line. So we're going to talk about lightfastness a little bit again. So this ink, unfortunately, I bought it thinking because it was pigment ink that it was lightfast. It is not, but that's okay, because I'm using this partially as a guide for myself, but I'll be building up deeper colors where I'm drawing. I'm also going to add in some black ink in places. I'm also going to spray some UV spray on top of it. I'm also going to make sure that it's framed and not placed in direct sunlight. Yeah, I guess if my friend does end up noticing some fading down the line, I can always fix it. But yeah, generally I would prefer to be using, always using more light fast products, but you know, that's not always possible. So in this case, I started this series not realizing that the ink that I was using wasn't terribly light fast, and now I just have to adapt. I want to put a division sort of here next to the body of the spider, not crossing it exactly. And yeah, no, it'll be more of a straight line this way. So next week and the week after, I will be in conferences on the Friday. Now I've made up my conference schedules so that I can still do my live stream, but I might be a little bit overwhelmed and distracted because I find conferences super overwhelming in terms of, you know, there's just so much information to process. I think actually both conferences are still open, so if you're here and you're interested in the sort of work that I do, the conferences that I'm attending are the Wild Wonder Conference, which is a nature journaling conference next week. I think that registration is still open for that, I'm not sure. And then the week after, I'm attending the American Society of Botanical Artists Conference. If I've got some mods in the chat, Dan, are you there? Maybe? Mods? Hello? Okay. Anyway, so those are the two conferences that I'll be attending. And so I will be taking a break from conference, from learning things to go and do something. I'll probably be doing something fairly brain dead for my live streams the next couple of weeks. Like I might just be setting up Lightfast tests, and that's the sort of thing that I can actually do. Lightfast tests or swatching or something, which might be the sort of thing that I'm doing during some of the conference programming anyway. These are of course online conferences, so I'll be attending my conferences from right here, but yeah, just if any of you want to join me, that might be of interest to you. And in any case, don't expect any fantastic insight from me for the next couple weeks, because I will be a little overwhelmed. So I've been getting back into inking, and I know that I've already discussed this with some of you, but if any of you have some suggestions for inking supplies that I might want to look into, I would prefer Lightfast and ideally waterproof, although I'm okay with not waterproof. But Lightfast is important to me. And then the other thing to be aware of with what I need for my inking supplies is I'm a total spaz, and I'm sure to spill anything that can be spilled. So I need things that don't spill, or if they do spill, ideally that aren't super disastrous. Because that's bound to happen. Crown Art says non-potentially disastrous ink. Let me think. Yeah, I mean, I even shied away from fountain pens for a long while because of just the prospect of like, really, you want me to be responsible for changing my own ink? I'm sure to just spill it everywhere. I think I've got over that fear. I just fill my pens far away from my artwork if possible. But you know, that's a one-time thing where I fill out the pen and then I wipe it off and then I seal the pen and then that's okay. Yeah. So I guess fountain pens I'm all right with. But then fountain pen inks are kind of because there's like very little information about the pigments that go into them. Back in the day, I had an unspillable inkwell. Okay, do you want to tell me more about this unspillable inkwell? That sounds like something that would work well for me. Unspillable isn't a working concept around me. I feel you. That is my life. See, my desk comes with a splash zone. Yeah. I'm just a walking disaster. It's fine. We're just used to it. Like an actual splash zone. Okay. Describe an actual splash zone. Bleh. An actual splash zone. Put the ink bottle in a small margarine tub when you are using it. I did that with a bottle of Kuretake Sumi. I feel like I would just like tumble the whole thing. Like I would like take a book and just, you know, push something onto the table and the whole thing goes away. Guys, you're like not understanding how much of a disaster I am. I can paint good. That's my skill set. It was roundish. It won't fall over far enough to let the ink come out the top. It worked. Okay, cool. That's neat. Walking disaster or walking miracle. The argument of it's a miracle this person hasn't XYZ, insert accident here, is quite common. Okay, well, I mean, story time. Let's talk about my life. Let's just shame me because maybe this will make you feel better about yourself. I went to Australia last year. And I got off the plane and went through security and all those things. And I had my passport. And I put it down while I was talking to our hosts on, I think it was actually like a fire extinguisher thing in the airport. And then I left it there. And so my entire trip to Australia, I was traveling around the country without a passport or any kind of ID that would be recognized in Australia because, you know, I had my Canadian health card from Ontario. That's super useful. I used a foil pie plate as a safety perimeter for typical ink bottles. Guys, you're not understanding. I would forget to put the lid back onto an ink if I'm constantly dipping into the same inkwell. The chances of me like walking away and forgetting to cap it are very high. The chances of me then coming back into the room later on and putting down something on the table like a book and just shoving everything away, also very high. And then the whole thing goes tumbling away. I'm a disaster. Hi, Annette. Kelly says I need to tint the whole house with a drop cloth. Yup. Alex says the splash zone is an area directly around the chair, particularly on the right side, cover designated by my truck's old carpeted floor mats to spare our poor tie-dyed carpet from any more suffering. Yes, so I solved this issue by, we tore up the floors in my studio. So we have an old, our house was built in 1925, and when we bought it, the upstairs was carpeted, but it was really, really old, shitty carpet, especially in the front bedroom, which is what I use as my studio. And we tore it up, and it turned out that some of it, like, I don't know what had happened at some point, but some of it was like not even the original subfloor. It was really, really thin plywood. So we tore up the whole thing in this room. We put down thick plywood, like a 3/4 inch sanded finished plywood. And I put teal wood stain and polyurethane on this. And when we eventually sell this house, which won't be for a while probably, we're pretty happy here, but it's not a forever home. When we do eventually sell this, we'll just put something else over it. So first of all, you know, it's teal plywood. So if it's teal plywood that has phthalo and quinacridone paint and ink and whatever on it, that's fine. I don't care. It's not gonna affect it in any way. And then when we do sell the house, obviously we'll put something that's a little bit more like universally wanted than teal plywood floors. I love Rotring Isograph pens. I think my friend gave me some. Let me go check what I've got. Oh no, never mind. I have Rotring the rapidographs, but those are, the isographs are more, they're more customizable, right? I should try these. I should play with these at some point. Thanks for the advice. I will try the thing that I already had sitting. I totally forgot what day it is. Yep. I do that all the time. It's difficult with the plague and working from home. All the days blend together. The difference is the rapidographs come with an ink cartridge that you can easily swap. Okay, that's interesting. But what about, so I also have this ink that comes with it. How do I... I mean, I have mixed feelings about cartridges too. Like if something can be easily refilled. Oh, I see. So this is the cartridge. Then why do I have... What's this used for if I have cartridges? Or do people just syringe back into the cartridge? Oh, you have the Kohinoor. Okay. So I know nothing about this. My friend dropped this off because I had started playing with inks and she was like, hey, try this. I didn't really like it. And so this has been sitting around and I haven't really looked into it. It is identical to isographs from Rotring. Oh. Okay. They look nothing like the rapidographs I used back in the day. Okay. All right. I'll play with them at some point. Report back. how does writing with a rapidograph compare to writing with like other types of pens? Suzanne says I'm laughing already. You're laughing at me for not like for being completely confused by rapidographs, or what's funny? Or just like how ridiculous I am with losing things. Hi Paulo, how are you? How's your week been? I bet I tried rapidograph on Bristol or similar hard paper. Intuitively, even as a kid, you want smooth paper for those things. Yeah. Week went okay with a lot of classes. Okay, cool. Sorry for the incomplete text. I got a new phone, and it's crazy fast. Cool, congratulations. How do you like your new phone? Hi, Paulo. Okay. Dan says, right, I'm fully focused. Okay, Dan, can you look up the conferences, the Wild Wonder Conference and the American Society of Botanical Artists Conference? They are happening next week and the week after, respectively. So I was mentioning that I'll be attending conferences from home next week and the week after. So I did set up my conference schedule so that I will be available. Like I will be running my my live stream still, but I'll probably be kind of scattered and I'll probably be doing something really sort of mindless, like swatching or something, for the next couple weeks because of conferences. I wish I could attend. Paulo, you probably can. They're online. They're open registration. Both of them actually have some amount of flexibility where you can watch programming after the fact if the scheduling doesn't work for you. You don't have to pay. You do have to pay. They cost money. The Wild Wonder Conference is very cheap. Well, very cheap. Not super expensive. The American Society of Botanical Art, this one is quite pricey if you want to attend everything. But if you are gonna only watch some of the programming, you can pay per programming. I found a site, John Muir. Yeah, it's organized by John Muir Laws. I'm going to stop commenting now and figure out what the heck I'm doing wrong. Don't worry about it. That comment came out perfect, indeed. Yep. Yeah, the price was really inviting. Yeah, the John Muir Laws one is the Wild Wonder Conference is really really affordable, and they have some really cool programming at that one. And that one's you pay just the registration. You don't have to pay for individual like workshops or lectures or anything. So yeah, the pricing on that one is so good. Tickets to Wild Wonder. Yeah. I thought that I have a lot of classes next week, so I don't know that I'll have the mindset in time to watch. Yeah. So I mean, in that case, I probably wouldn't go for the American Society of Botanical Artists one, because I think that they're after like, they're both offering access after the fact, but I think that the ASBA one is only like 48 hours or something, whereas Wild Wonder is, I think they were debating between whether to make it 6 months or forever that you can have access to the programming after the fact. So that's, yeah. That one's a little bit more accessible. Is this the American SBA? Yes. So you need to look up ASBA, but it, like, if you look up ASBA, you'll get all sorts of results that aren't botanical art related. So yeah, it's American Society of Botanical Artists. Online in October. Video only pass. In mid-October, we will begin selling a $45 video pass, which will grant access to all the videos from the event. Oh, that's really cool. I like the look of the ABBA site, the Association of British Botanical Artists. Yes, I'm not aware of exactly what the drama, well, sorry. I have some sense of what drama led to them splitting off from the Society of Botanical Artists. Not the ASBA, just the SBA. But yeah, ABBA seems like a really neat group. I know some of the members. I'm not British, so it's not super relevant to me, but yeah, super cool. Yeah, that one's easier to navigate than the SBA. I might look at joining ABBA, why'd they split. I think for exactly the reason you just described is basically the short story is the SBA is a very insular group, and they have, you know, a high council of botanical artists who are voted on, and then they vote in new members, and there's very high dues and stuff. So there are people who really go for that structure, but the people who organized, I mean, there are definitely people who are members of both, but I think ABBA was trying to be a larger, more inclusive group that with a lower barrier to entry. Is my thing, my guess, my understanding from limited interaction with both groups. Ev says, I forgot which day it is. Oh, well, you're here now. Found us. It looks quite elite, old, and stuffy, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I think some of that is by design. How are you, Ev? So this sort of brick pattern, this breaking pattern in the wood here that you see, in here, yeah, sorry, or in my sketch here, that is that particular pattern of wood rotting is scientifically known as brown rot. And so that's when this wood breaks down in these sort of square brown brick shapes. It's called brown rot. And then there's a different kind where wood breaks down in like little splintery white stuff, and that is helpfully called white rot. And that one breaks down the lignin in the wood. And I just thought that you all would want to know these highly scientific terms. And I learned this from my client who bought these pieces, who used to work as a park ranger in national and provincial parks. Such a bummer that ink is not light fast, partially because it looks so good in that specific pen. I know, right? I really like the look of brown ink in this pen. Now, so I will be replacing it with a different brown ink. I've bought a couple of other brown inks that perform a little bit better, Lightfastness wise. And so I'll be experimenting with that. So this will stay a brown pen. And then I promised this ink bottle to Cyan, so this will be as soon as I've swatched it out next week. So I'm going to be setting up Lightfastness test next week on the live stream. As soon as that's done and I'm done this series, I'll be mailing that to Cyan. And hopefully she will enjoy it. And I think she also has this pen. Maybe she only has the green one. Oh well. Question, why switch media for the ground pattern? Because, okay, so I kind of like the graphic look of something like this, where there's like a little bit more definition. It's just a thing that I enjoy doing sometimes, and I have been really enjoying lately. So the way I'm doing that is with ink. Just a thing I felt like doing. It's truly fascinating. I learn something every day. Everyone seems to have that pen because it's a beautiful pen. Also because you are converting us all to loving orange. I think Cyan has the green one maybe more than one. Yeah, I think so too. She definitely has the bright, the lime green one. I think she might also have this green one. What does ink give you? More pigment? It gives me a more defined and unified line. Also, it's a little fussier, or a little less fussy to apply than, say, watercolor dry brush. Lime green was my second choice, but now it's gone. I'm looking forward to your brown ink Lightfast tests. Yeah, so it's not just inks that I'm testing. I'm testing all of the paints in my watercolor palette. I'm also testing a whole bunch of other watercolor paints that I would like to maybe add to my watercolor palette. So in particular, I used to really love working with Prussian blue. It was like maybe one of my very favorite paints. It was really hard to pull it out of my palette when I found out that most Prussian blues, or many Prussian blues, do not perform as nicely as their Lightfastness 1 testing would suggest. So I pulled out Prussian blue, but I would like to reintroduce it. So I've got like 8 different tubes of Prussian blue. I'm going to test them all and hopefully find a tube that I feel comfortable reintroducing into my palette. So I'm doing Prussian blue, I'm doing some other pigments that are fussy in watercolor just for fun, and then I'm doing all the paints in my palette, and then I'm gonna do some inks. You got the My Merry Blue Prussian blue? I don't have the My Merry Blue Prussian blue. I have, what do I have? I have the Mission Gold. I have Roman Schmal. I have Daniel Smith. I have M. Graham. I have Jackson's. I have a Winsor Newton somewhere. Dumb question. Why not apply regular watercolor with a pen? I have tried that. So regular watercolor with a pen has some caveats with it. You can't put it in a pen like this. You can't put it in a fountain pen. It would sediment and clog. So you would need to apply it with a dip pen, like this one. Or I have a glass pen that I've used for this as well. And I have done watercolor with a pen. Here, let me show you watercolor with a pen. it's definitely possible. But then you need to make a mix of watercolor. Let me see. Nope, not that sketchbook. Do I have the sketchbook? It's in handy, maybe? Possibly? Yes, one moment. Okay. So, this is watercolor with a pen. So it's possible, but you need to apply the watercolor to the pen, which means making a little watery mix of watercolor. It sediments out really quickly, so you have to keep mixing it. It's hard to keep a consistent color, so you lose some of that graphical element. It will tend to soften up and spread if you put another layer of watercolor on top of it, so you won't get as crisp a line as if you have a permanent waterproof ink. Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's just, it's a different thing and has its own challenges. Mission Gold is Lightfast according to Teo, but I think I've already told you. So, yes, yeah. So you did mention that, and I do have some Mission Gold, which I'll be trying. Prussian blue is a fluctuating pigment. It fades in the sun and returns to original color in the dark. Yes, although depending on your paper and a whole bunch of other things, the degree to which it returns varies because it reacts with things other than light as well. So Prussian blue is an interesting, quirky little beautiful color, which I love and I really want to reintroduce to my palette. So I just need to find a version that I'm comfortable with. And I think what it's going to come down to is I'm going to test a bunch of different brands. I'm going to find like for example, if I find that my Mission Gold tube is fine, then I'll have 15 milliliters of that. And then I'll buy a bunch more Mission Gold tubes and test all of them while I'm using the first tube. So then if it varies by batch or by tube, I'll always know that the paint that I'm using is Lightfast. Steven says, I guess I'm just not clear on the difference in the media. Yes, so I think that the ink, it's more finely ground pigment. It sits in the paper more than most watercolors. I think it probably also has some other binder mix. So instead of being gum arabic and honey or whatever that don't really stick it in, it's got something a little bit more sticky in it. And so once you draw a line, that line doesn't really bleed out very much at all. I avoid Prussian blue as much as I love it. I get the same from PB60. Yes. So that has been how I've been working for the past, it's been a couple of years since I pulled Prussian blue out of my palette. But it used to be, like, honestly, it used to be my favorite, or one of my favorite pigments. So I really would like to use it. I just don't want to run the risk of just, I got a bad batch. So I'll just have to experiment with it and hopefully find a version that is more stable. Anyone tried the one from Cornelison? I've heard horror stories about mulling Prussian blue. I think from you and from Ev. So I'm not going to get the pigment. Sleeping Beauty Turquoise Genuine is not Lightfast. No, there's a few of the Primatex that aren't. PB60 should be close enough to Prussian blue. I like Prussian blue better. That's basically all it comes down to. Is I like between the two, if I was choosing by hue, I would choose Prussian blue. Or both. It would be interesting to do a lightfastness test. That's my plan for next week's live stream. Yeah. Using UV glass. That would be interesting. Maybe I can get a scrap of museum glass from someone. That's a thought. I thought Prussian hated oxygen, not light. No. It reacts to light, and then it returns in the dark. So if you're familiar with cyanotypes, the you know, those white on blue prints? Blueprints. You know blueprints? Blueprints are made with Prussian blue. And there's a transformation that occurs where once you seal off the blue, it's not supposed to change, but there can be some incomplete something, which means that it would still fade, but it would still return when you put it back in the dark. I'm gonna stop talking because I feel like Paolo can explain this much better than I can. But Prussian blue's main issue is light. It also is somewhat reactive with other things. So it reacts with zinc white. In fact, many paints do. So PW4, Chinese white, or zinc white is something to be careful of because it reacts with several of the semi-stable pigments. Yeah. Fun stuff. Rhodonite and malachite that don't like oxygen. Oh, right, malachite as well. That's interesting. I have some malachite coming, but I'm not sure it'll be here by next week. We shall see. Okay, so now let's see about adding some more layers to this. Malachite oxidizes super fast, like the DS tubes of it were a nightmare. So this is interesting. I have malachite coming from, I had forgotten that malachite was one of those pigments. I have some malachite coming from Roman Schmal, and maybe I'll ask him. Maybe I'll ask him whether I should be expecting some changes from his malachite. Does it when it oxidizes, does it like what color does malachite change to? For best results, use most framers insist on UV glass when framing watercolor. UV glass is so much more expensive, and I know that some of my customers will just, you know, get commercial frames or something, and so I don't want to make my, like, they might redecorate, so even if I sell their pieces framed, which I don't always, they might pull them out and when they're redecorating put them in a different frame, and I don't want the durability of my artwork to be dependent on someone else's framing choices. So I tend to avoid that for that reason. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna rearrange a little so that these are back in frame. Ew. Ugh. Haven't emailed him yet either. Oops. When in contact with metal like a tube. Oh. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. What did I just do? That's not the color I wanted. Damn it. A bit like a green earth, but I feel brighter. Like when it, you mean when it oxidizes or before? Because that's what the I haven't really tried malachite at all. So Roman Schmal has some malachite in their new line introductions, and I have some coming to me. Sorry. And that it looks sort of like a green earth except a little brighter. It oxidizes when exposed to metal. So that's interesting. Okay. Does it... Is that also just an oxygen thing? Like, does it oxidize without the presence of metal? And what if it's mixed with metal complex paints? These are important questions that need answering. And Palmer, I tried posting the price and link, but it got grayed out. Yes, so only mods can post links. Dan or Ev, if you can help Suzanne post a link to, I guess, the Daniel Smith. I have some of it in pans and didn't run into any issues. I've seen it on Jackson's and it looks quite weak. Mine is brighter. The malachite you make, Dan. Are you on Lee's Discord, Suzanne? So there's a link to my Discord in the video description. So Discord is a chat platform, just like a message board system. It's free. Anyone can join. If you'd like to chat with me throughout the week, go ahead and join my Discord channel. The link is in the video description. Posted a link to a document in Lee's Discord. What am I looking for? I don't know anymore. Discord. Thanks, Ev. Okay, so now what I'm doing, I guess I started working without really telling you what my plan was here. So I'm sort of adding some wood texture with a mix of earth colors. And I didn't clean up my palette since my last painting. Oh, I thought I should show you my last painting. So last week I worked on this. So this is the ginger that I worked on last week. And so I still have my paints from that on here, and I'm just layering them on. And I'm just trying something new where I never clean my palette, and we'll see how that goes. Hard to say, Paolo. I still have the gutted, corroded tube with leftover paint attached to it. I could mail it to you. What a generous offer. Like, I know that that's actually possibly a thing that he'd be interested in, but from a chemist's point of view, it's possibly interesting. Oh, yeah, no, I I agree. I agree, and it's not all that different from things I can imagine doing. I just, that without context, offering to mail someone a corroded tube of paint is, only in this very special. Only in this very special community is this appreciated. Anyway, yeah, so now I'm just adding in some wood texture in here and trying to build up the basic shapes of this. And because I've masked out the spider, not the spider, the daddy long legs, I can just paint right over it, and then when I pull it up, it's going to be mostly white. Okay, so then we're gonna try some of this. Yeah, so I'm changing my painting strategy, and I've decided that I'm just going to mostly not even worry about wiping or cleaning my palette ever. I'm just going to, you know, if I need a pure color or something, I might clean off a section, but I'm just sort of just going to keep working with the colors from piece to piece and see how that evolves. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. It certainly works fine for browns. And that's sort of what I did with some of my travel palettes anyway, so it's not totally new. But yeah. I mean, to be honest, so I didn't always clean my palette before, but I would take a look at, in between large pieces, I would clear out and choose a new selection of colors for a new piece. So if I was working with something that had a different color palette, I would wipe it down and use that. And so basically the only thing that's changing here is I've realized since I'm sort of, since I've moved to this palette, I've stopped being quite as obsessive about choosing, you know, only 4 or only 6 paints before I start. So there's no point, if I'm going to be mixing in all of the colors in the palette anyway, I might as well try using, you know, some of the mixes that I had before and start incorporating that and just work that way. So it's a little bit of a change. We'll see how it goes. Seems fine so far. People clean their palettes. Sometimes I do. Actually, speaking of cleaning my palettes, I do need to clean my disgusting water containers. So I will be right back. Back in a moment. Paula says I'm kind of freaky about cleaning my palette. Dan says I would be but can't be arsed. That's close to my policy, I guess. Ev says, I don't feel obsessed with a clean palette. I'm okay with old paints and stains. Yep. Definitely okay with old paints and stains. I also really kind of love what happens to a palette as you work on it and like how the colors mix and change and stuff. So yeah. Interesting to see how it all evolves. Annette says, I try not to clean my palette, but then all the cat hair in it, and I have them in the mixes. Yeah, so I need to build a lid for this. I have the materials for it, I just haven't gotten around to it. So I'm going to be building a lid for this thing, and that will help, hopefully. But yes, definitely I get cats. I mean, because my cat will come onto my desk to drink the paint water. And it's not that he's not like, he's not underprivileged. He has his own water. We tried to get him a fountain that would give him running water. He doesn't have a lack of water. He just wants to drink the paint water. He wants to drink out of our glasses if we're drinking, and he wants to drink the paint water. He wants to help. So there's nothing I can do about my cat drinking my paint water. I try not to use toxic pigments, and then I try to wash it out so that it's clean water in between paint sessions. But yeah. So the cat comes onto the desk to drink the water, and he walks across the palette. There's nothing I can do about it. On the other hand, Stephen Quiller constantly wipes the paint off his mixing area and starts again several times for painting. I mean, so in one painting, I just use the same paints, and like that's by design in my case. Like I actually want to be using the same paints in that situation, because what I do is I'll let things dry and then I'll dry brush. Like I'll use these colors, and I can use it sort of like a color picker tool and pick out exactly the little color that I want for a detail. So in a given painting, I will deliberately let my paint get mucky. And sit in the palette. But in between paintings, I used to clean up my palette if I was going to be using a very different color palette for a different painting. And so that's what I'm just sort of experimenting with, not worrying about so much. If I don't have room for a color, like if I need a bright orange and everything's brown for an orange, I'm not going to be obsessive about it, but if Kitty Stetson paint, by law, legally, it must be a phthalo, because reasons. Yep. They're sharing in our creative journey. Yes. My cat feels like he is a helpful creature. This is like a core part of his belief system, is that he is very helpful and he needs to be involved in everything. And there's just not a whole lot I can do to dissuade this thought. It's like a very deeply held belief of his. And yeah. So I think this area actually needs to be lighter than it is, but it also needs to be yellower. So what I'm doing is I'm scrambling this up, and I'm gonna pick it right back up. There we go. That's better. I like bright orange as an undercoat, then mute. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me try again. PB16. Yeah. Yep. And I've always got some on my palette, and the cat's always on it. Everyone needs a bright, bright orange. Yes. Paulo, what's your bright, bright orange? And have you tried Winsor & Newton's transparent orange? Because it's amazing. It's so beautiful. Herb Crown says, gotta go, folks. Take care. Take care. Good night. If you think the paint is bad, the pigment is worse. Okay, I will stay away from it. Consolation prize. If it's the Chinese Winsor & Newton PG7, it won't stain their fur. There's so much binder you can actually wipe it off. Great. Steven says, I like bright orange as an undercoat, then mute 95% of it. I like bright orange as a mixing color as well. Yeah, I've done like actually fairly few like really bright orange pieces that stay bright orange. And as I say that, I look around and I've got a couple hanging on the wall, so maybe I do. But I also just use it as a mixing color. Like there's some of my transparent orange in my mix for this wood stuff. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Kelly said something. Not the right person to ask, because orange is one of my favorite colors. Annette says, I just posted a pic of my cat drinking my water in your Discord. Alex says, Lee, that's called personal assistant personality type. Dee Dee is also a personal assistant. Oh, you're interacting with a thing? Oh my god, me too. Knocks over 3 things while running over to help. Yes. Yep. My cat heard me say that I need a personal assistant, and he thinks that he is the perfect candidate. He's not. But, you know. Paolo says, no, I haven't. I don't think I have it on my palette. Which pigment it is? Now I need to get a half pound. It is a, as of yet, not officially assigned diketoparoloperol, DPP. It is tentatively assigned P0107. And that's what Winsor & Newton originally released it as a special edition. Their packaging now doesn't list a pigment, but it's the same thing. So yeah, P0107 probably, but it might end up being P0108. We're not sure. Roman Schmal has also started offering a paint made with the same pigment. Theirs is called Aquarius Orange. It's beautiful. Here, I'll swatch it. It's like if you've tried the transparent orange or transparent pyrrole orange from like Core or Daniel Smith or Schminke have the PO71. It's similar to that, but it's brighter. It's a little bit redder in mass tone, and then it shifts to a lighter orange in, like, it's got more of a chromatic shift through its range. But it's absolutely gorgeous. And like, I'm not necessarily the hugest orange person, but I love this paint. Love, love, love. This is 107. Tentatively, yes, but because it hasn't been assigned yet, it might land as 108. Neuron is a helpful boy. Yeah, that's certainly what he believes. He thinks he's helpful. A little redder when thicker? Yeah, so in mass tone it's a little bit redder. And when it dries a little bit redder. But it does water out to like a really bright middle orange, whereas I feel like the PO71 is a little bit more even through its range. Like there's less of a chromatic shift from mass tone to its tints, and it dries like it's slightly more reddish overall in most varieties. Yeah. So I like this pigment better. A Roman Schmalt, I haven't had a chance to try theirs yet. He claims his is a little bit more opaque and a little bit granulating, the way he's formulated it, but he has confirmed that it is in fact the same pigment as the Winsor Newton one. Paolo, I can send you a sample. Since I'm sending you a palette. I'll send you a dot. Little orangina when it's thinner. Yeah, I mean, part of that is the lighting. It's a little less yellow, I guess, in its tints. Just trying to... I would say that yeah, like maybe a little bit redder than it appears on the screen. Yeah, so to all of you who I was going to send stuff to, I still am. I've got snacks and stuff for you. I'm just getting all the packages ready to go. They'll go out this weekend. Except for Cyan's, which is getting a little delayed because I'm also sending her this. Yeah, I would say that it's not quite orangina orange in real life. Like this is showing up as a little bit more yellow here. Like it's less of a tangerine in tints, but it's beautiful. It's really, really gorgeous. It mixes beautifully. It's a really strong mixer. I love it. So that's my favorite orange. Off the clock, hallelujah. Yay! Okay, I'm gonna go grab myself a snack because it's been a couple hours. I'm still painting, still having fun. I'm gonna grab myself a snack and show off one of the things that I'm gonna send to all of you who are getting packages from me. Guys, this is a very Canadian thing. And so I've got some minis of these, which all of y'all who are getting packages from me sent out. I got some Crispers minis. So so you're gonna get to try these. They're all dressed flavor, which is of course the best flavor of chips, and I don't know why the rest of the world doesn't have them. I had Oreo donuts. That's fascinating. Oreo donuts. Steven Turner says, Christy! Yeah. It's a local company. Actually, I knew the granddaughter of the founder. Joy. Hi, Joy. How are you? What is that flavor? Okay. This flavor is called All Dressed. And it is what it says on the package. It's like all of the flavors mixed together. So it's a little bit spicy. It's a little bit like vinegary. It's got like a little, I don't know, barbecue or something in it. It's just like really, really good. Really, really good. And for some reason, all dressed chips are a Canadian thing, even though they should be an everywhere thing. And these crispers, they're sort of like chips, but they're baked and they're flat. And they're also really good and also just a Canadian thing. So yeah, if you're getting a package from me in the next few days when I send them out, I managed to get my hands on like little mini snack sized versions of these where you can try them out. What are they made from? These are wheat based mostly. Like they've got wheat flour and potato flour. They're like sort of halfway between a cracker and a chip. And I was getting some hunger pangs, so I needed to stuff some in my face. But okay, that's enough snacking for today. Joyce says I'm sleepy. Gav says ketchup and barbecue and salt and vinegar. Yeah, I mean that's probably like the mix of the different flavor mixes that they put in there. But like I don't know that. Well, I mean ketchup chips are also a Canadian thing, but they don't really taste like ketchup either. And definitely the all dressed, I would not like guess ketchup out of it at all. It's like more of that sour like salt and vinegar, but it's also got some like spices and it's really nice. I ate the whole bag at once, so I cut down on how often I buy snacks. We honestly, since isolation, have really like cut back on snacking a lot. But then I got crispers because I was sending out these boxes to people. I wanted to pack some Canadian snacks, and so I wanted like all dressed something, and the crispers are what packs flattest. because the little snack packs are pretty flat. The Fresh Coat ketchup chips are only $1. Cool, good to know. How's the palette working out? It's great. Yeah, I'm really liking it. It's changing a little bit how I work. So that's been interesting. Where I was just saying that I used to be pretty obsessive about, I would choose the colors for my paintings before I started my painting. And then I mix on these flats and it gets all messy. And then unless I was painting another painting with a similar color palette, I would clean it off in between uses. With this palette, I found that I find myself like picking colors a little bit more as I'm working rather than like loading up my colors beforehand. And so each painting is then using a little bit more of the colors in here. And sometimes I'll just add in one or two other like pans of something. And so then I decided, what if I just leave the messy palettes as it is, don't try to wipe them off in between paintings? Like, so I'll only wipe it off if I need like a completely clear area for, you know, I might need to use a bright pink or something. And otherwise, I'm just going to see how this evolves. And so far that's been going well. Alex says, baby brother will find snacks, then eat an entire bag and leave 2 chips. He won't finish it off except for the 2 chips. The whole bag, 2 chips. Baby brother. Thanks, bro. Baby brothers. I have a video call with my baby brother after this. He's got a new apartment and he's eager to show it off. So I get to see my baby brother's apartment. He's all grown up now, sort of. It feels so weird. Those of you with like much younger siblings, do you still like, I have trouble seeing my younger siblings as adults. So my youngest brother is almost 14 years younger than me. So he's 18 now. And he just got his own apartment. And like, I have trouble seeing him as anything other than a toddler. Your baby brother must love that. Well, like, I don't treat him as a toddler. My parents kind of treated him like a toddler until, you know, this year. This is I'm the baby brother. Steven says my grandniece is 14. Cool. Nice. There's a big age range between me and my siblings. So I'm the middle, actually. And so I have an older brother and sister. And my older sister had a baby recently, and so it's been an interesting adjustment for my youngest brother to go from being the baby of the family, like really, really the baby of the family. He's 25 years younger than my oldest brother. Really, really baby to like now he's no longer the baby because we have a nephew. And the nephew is actually the baby. That's kind of interesting because he's gone from like he's everyone's baby to, well, now he's a grown up and he has his own apartment and there's an actual drooling baby who's learning how to eat around. Hi, Belle. How are you? Alex says, usually baby brother adults far better than I do. And is usually so level-headed, but sometimes when he's a whiny, stompy teenager, I admittedly talk down to him like he's a whiny, stompy teenager. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting dynamic when there's a really big age gap like that, because, you know, we didn't grow up in the same household at all, right? Like, when I was in university, when my brother was in kindergarten. So, you know, I've always been someone he comes to for help with his homework and can you whatever. And, like, you know, I was obviously not anymore because he's an adult, but when he was younger, for a long time, my husband and I were in my parents' will, we were his legal guardians should anything happen to them. So, you know, that's been his experience as well. So it's sort of interesting. It's a different thing from like some of my siblings who are a little closer in age to me, where we did grow up in the same house, you know, as kids together. Although we're all pretty spread out, but yeah. Dan says, well, I'm off. It's getting late. Thanks for the stream lead. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye, Dan. Sleep well. Alex says, I try to pitch most of my stories as learn from my mistakes so you don't have to, and he thankfully took it to heart, but he's still a dodo bird. I'll probably see him as a teenager forever. Yeah, my little brother, honestly, it's hard for me to see him as, like, not a toddler. He's obviously not a toddler. He's an adult, but... not a very responsible adult yet, but, you know, nonetheless. Meanwhile, I refuse to acknowledge my siblings' existence at all. Well, yeah, so my older sister and I didn't really get along when we were younger, and it took well into adulthood. I'm 31 and she's 36, and we hated each other's guts. until she moved out. And then we hated each other's guts through another. It was like, well, sorry, we didn't hate each other's guts after that, but we would still, whenever we would spend any time together, we would still fight for like another decade. And it took living apart and like living in whole different cities. Like we've never lived in the same city for the past oh gosh, like 15 years now. And it took 10 years of living in completely different cities for us to get along. And so now it's good. We're like really close and we talk pretty regularly, and then, you know, we can come visit each other and spend like 3-4 days, and we recognize that that's sort of the limit. Is as long as we live in different cities and we like hang out every few weeks or months for like 3-4 days at a time, we're great. We're best of friends. But you know, it took that long, so. Yeah, I raised baby brother for a stretch, but I taught you better table manners than that. Speeches are usually just for the cats. Yeah, I mean, I try to refrain from that. I think I might have, but the difference to my brother was less than 2 years. Yeah, I mean, that's a very different experience. Like my siblings are all several years older or younger. So the closest is my older sister, the one I didn't get along with. She's 5 years older than me. And I mean, in some ways we were a little bit closer because she's adopted. So she was sort of like developmentally a little bit behind as a child. So, you know, maybe functionally it was closer to like 2 or 3 years. But that was the closest, and all my other siblings are like much older, much younger, so it's a different thing. Like it's not that we there's sort of like I don't know, like two groups of children there, where like the younger two didn't really grow up with the older three to some extent. It's weird how cats don't learn from your mistakes, rather they exploit them. Yeah. They do learn from my mistakes to their advantage. Yes. Paul says, I used to love my siblings, but now I just feel like, yeah, we share the same parents, so what? Well, you know, everyone has different family relationships. My family is wonderful, but often the wonder only applies in very small doses. I feel you. I love my family, but, you know, I'm also glad that they live all the way over there. Family is blood, but doesn't inherit loyalty. Gotta look after each other. If that doesn't happen, it understandably falls apart. Can't fault you for that. Suzanne says, siblings. Don't get me started. I have 12. 5 sisters and 7 brothers. Yes, French Catholic. Wow! Oh, wow! Oh my goodness. That must have been different growing up. That's a lot. Oh my god. Steven says, my big brother and sister were step-siblings, did not come to Canada in 1965 when I did as a kid, so always a distance, just naturally. Alex says, Suzanne Palmer, that sounds like a nightmare, just finding a fitting dining room table. I love each one in their own way. Yeah, there's definitely a difference in like how you interact with each of your siblings, isn't there? Gabor says, I need to leave. Thanks for the great company. I'll tune in next week. Bye. Bye. See you next week. Those words hit close to me. Everyone told me family loves each other no matter what, but my family defies that. Val, I'm like, so my family, my nuclear family, like my parents and my siblings, we all, you know, we try to get along and you know, there's some tough relationships there, but you know, they'll always be my family. But I do have to say two things. I mean, first of all, 3 of my siblings are adopted, so I don't put much, you know, faith in, like, what is blood, you know, and whatever. Family is who you choose. So, first of all, there's that. And then, secondly, like, also on a related note, I also have some family who are related to me by blood, who I don't speak to, who my parents don't speak to. You know, my parents both had some issues with their families. So it's not, you know, family is what you make of it. I think it's worth trying to preserve relationships and like value memories and shared experiences if you can, but like some people just you can't get along with, and if they're not going to put in an effort, you know, blood alone doesn't really mean anything. Val says, I ate too many pancakes this lunch, and also I low-key regret mentioning my family because I made this conversation all sappy. Yeah, don't worry about it. Blood is that thing that tells you if you're predisposed to heart disease. But yes, cardiac issues do run in the family. Yeah, I mean, I don't pay too much attention to blood specifically, but. Okay, well, I've had a very productive couple hours, haven't I? So I default to fam. Sorry, not intended to make anything weird. Don't worry. I approve of that. I also approve of weird, so you know. Annette says, I don't talk to my aunt and uncle after my grandma died, and all they worried about was money. My mom does again, despite all that. Yeah. I recently found out that my grandmother, who, there's some family drama there, is in hospital, and you know, I know that there's some discussion always with like some family members who don't speak to each other about like, okay, well, sometimes do you make up when people when people are ill, how bad is this fight? And that answer is going to be different for everyone. Kind of enjoying painting with this really large brush. Feel like I'm absorbing like James Gurney here. Stop fiddling. Paint big. I'm loving the totally not a cartoon buttless non-spider you got there, Lee. Yep, I'm loving it too. And right now I'm just painting some wood texture. I can switch to some of this mossy texture if y'all would like. Paint some fruiting bodies on some moss. Bryophytes? Okay, yeah, let's do that. Let me pull up some pictures. Try something interesting. Okay, so, can you see this? See these things in the middle? No fruiting bodies? Uh-oh. So my goal is to paint some of those. And so I'm gonna start drawing in some of those little stalks. They're really fun. So this is how these mosses reproduce. Okay, all right, let's move on to some of these mossy bits, and I need to find my pencil so I can start drawing these in. So I'm going to try to use some of these little gaps of white to draw in this. Here, let me get you a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. Val says, Annette, I know that pain. My brother once utterly destroyed me verbally, and then they had the audacity to ask me a favor. Yeah, siblings can be hard. I've got a few different images of these little guys, and I want to have 2 sets of them, I think. So I'm going to do one up here, and they show up in little clusters around the moss. And then I'm also going to have some of the others. And yeah, so I'm going to use these pens for the stalks, I guess. Stalks of the moss. And then probably, yeah, I guess I probably will outline them. But I'll try to do this as lightly as I can. Dang, this is gutsy drawing over the paint. Oh? Like, more so than... That's interesting. This is just how I work. You think this is gutsy? Cool, I'll take it. I approve of gutsy. Okay, and then these ones, I don't think I'm gonna outline all the way because that's gonna be lighter. So that's gonna be here. And then there's also going to be some of these little bits here. And so these are again the hemlock cones, or it's not hemlock cones, the hemlock little needles. And so they're the same as these guys on this one. Drawing over the pain. Can we all just draw over the pain of 2020? I agree with the yes, please. Can we just draw over the pain of 2020? That would be great. Okay, so some of these, I'm just going to try to use some of the same shapes. And yeah, so I'm gonna start creating some of these shapes in, well, you know what, first I'm gonna go back to this masking fluid and I'm gonna mask off my little fruiting bodies. I'm almost dipping it into water. Is this, okay, let's clear off. So there's like a film that forms on top that I need to pick off. But hopefully I'll still have enough underneath that's still usable. See that film? See how gross that is? Ew. "2020 has been a very trying decade." Yes, yes it has. I'm just, can this be over? Please. Had enough. I want off this roller coaster, please. Ah. Skin fluid always wins. Yeah, okay. So. I know it's been extra especially hard for some of us in the community. Yeah. Yeah, how are you feeling, Joy? I know that you had a tough day yesterday. Okay, so I'm gonna try to create a few more little spots of things here. Move this over, but so I'm gonna block out some little areas that are going to get a coat of masking fluid now. And then the rest of this, I'm going to start building out some shadow areas and finding the forms of the mosses. I think it's like, if you want to think about it as negative painting, I'm always a little, like, I find the concept of negative painting a little bit weird to just because no matter what you're painting, you're negative painting. Like, of course, you're always going to be painting the darker areas, so I'm a little, I always find negative painting a little bit of a weird concept, but I guess that's sort of what I'm, like, the best way to describe this, maybe, in terms of, like, ways that people understand. Is I'm going to be painting the areas that are in shadow and, like, then revealing the areas that are more exposed, if that makes sense. And so right now this looks really, like, odd and noisy, but when I have the deeper colors, these lines are sort of going to disappear. Don't get masking fluid on your sleeve. Oh, from this? Yeah. It's mostly dry. Joyce is still in bed, didn't sleep great, but eventually got there, so yay. Just glad to chill with you folks. Aww. My weak bone structure would have died in that ride. Roller coaster typhoon, people can't die of starvation, etc. So you had all these Characters trapped in the lives for like the longest ride ever, and it was an endless loop. Characters said things. Annette Meyer says, I need new socks and wanted to buy them, but I forgot what my shoe size is. Like, this is so boring and then now infamous. I want to get off Dr. Bones' wild ride. Oh, is that from Roller Coaster Tycoon? I had no idea. Okay, so now we're going to mask off some areas. And hopefully that'll help in the next step when I start so what I'm drawing now is these little leafy bits, and I'm going to draw a few of them in masking fluid and see whether that's a good way to create some of this texture. So I'm just sort of experimenting here. I'm lucky here where I have a very understanding client who's just sort of encouraged me to go wild. I can also add some of the same sort of texture in some of this wood grain here. So there's going to be a whole lot of masking fluid, and I'm going to end up putting about 3 layers of it over the course of this painting, and then peeling it off and then adding some more texture and stuff. Joy says I bought white gouache. It's not opaque enough. Well, that's too bad. What are you trying to do with your white gouache? Ev says bleed-proof white makes better highlights than gouache. I've never tried bleed-proof white. It's cool. Need to buy shoes for wedding. I've forgotten my size. Also, I usually buy slippers. Oh, hi. Do you want to be on the camera? That's what happens when you come in here. You'll get scoped. Scopes. Here. Hi, Neuron. Yeah. Hello. Are you helpful? You are not. Cats are not helpful. You want me to feed you? Go talk to Daddy. Daddy feeds cats. I'm on video. Daddy feeds cats. Yeah, hi. What do you think of the painting? What do you think of the spider, Neuron? It's not a spider. Okay, bye. Do you all hear that rattle? Yeah? Are you rattling at the camera? Hey, buddy. Tail. Yeah. All right. We sort of lost the cat. That's a loud purr. Yes, he's very loud. So he's a fairly large cat, I guess. So, you know, he has large lung capacity. He's very, very loud. It's a cartoon. Okay, thanks. We're done here. Gotta help over here. Yeah. Purr. Yeah. He's hanging out at the base of the, like, on the other side of the table now. So you'll probably still hear him for a while. He's making himself known. Hey! So here's another example of everything that's wrong with masking fluid. Just such a terrible supply. Such a terrible supply. Okay, and now we are going to just wipe that goop up. It's terrible. Hate it. Masking fluid's the worst. Ew. Alex says, oh, I can hear him. He sounds like he's helping. He's licking his butt now on the other side of the table. I remember I saw a video of the cat with the deepest meow. So, you may have heard Neuron right at the beginning here. He doesn't have a deep meow at all. It's very loud. And his purring is sort of deep as well as loud. But he got neutered very, very young because he had another health issue, and so he got his surgery, both of them at once. And so he is a very large cat, very large male cat with a very big voice, but it's a very high-pitched little kitten voice because his voice never dropped because he got neutered too young. So yeah, he sounds like a very, very loud baby. Masking fluid entertainment. Ew. Ew, masking fluid. Ew. Aren't all cats and dogs big babies? Yeah, but Neuron just sounds like one, except when he's threatening other cats in the neighborhood. Then he sounds absolutely terrifying because it's just like it's unlike other cats. Because he'll just like he's so much louder because he's actually a really large cat. So huge lung capacity, but he's also just so high pitched and he can growl and hiss and scream all at the same time. It's actually terrifying, and he's super territorial. Okay. All right. So since a few of you were interested in what this looks like as I'm building up more of this mossy texture, I'm going to start working on that and get at least some of that done, just so you can see what that's going to look like a little bit. And so I'm going to start painting in here, and yeah, I'm going to give it a little bit of I'm going to give it a little bit of body, I think, by painting with, this is bismuth yellow. So I'm going to try one mix that's bismuth yellow and the phthalo green, and one that's Nicolazo yellow and phthalo green. The bismuth yellow is going to be a little bit brighter and a little bit heavier, like it's a little bit more opaque because that bismuth yellow is opaque. And so it's going to be a little bit more of this milky texture. And I find there's some advantage to that in terms of like grounding the piece. Painting some areas with this before building up further in layers with the Nicolazo and phthalo green mix. Dexter has an octave in the diva range. Is the masking fluid already dry? Most of it. I'm not really painting in the areas that I've touched most recently, so yeah, but mostly it's dry. It dries pretty quickly because it's a very fine line. Neuron helping! Neuron! Oh, of course, now he ignores me. You can tell when it dries because it goes from a white to a sort of clear, and if you turn it around you can sort of catch the shine of it. And then you can tap it. Yeah, so that's dry. So I'm going to start creating some shapes here and get some darker areas in, and hopefully start building up gradually. That makes sense. I think I'm going to put another one of those little, yeah, let's do some of these browns. So there's some mixed browns in here, and this one can go in there. This one can go in there. Hi, you're back. Are you helpful? No. Hello. Hi. Are you going to show off for the camera? Let's see if you do tricks for the camera. Neuron, sit. Neuron, you're not showing off very well. Sometimes you do tricks. Neuron, sit. Sit. No, don't bite my nose. Sit. You're a little brat. You know I don't have treats, so you're not doing your tricks. You know I don't have treats, so you're not doing your tricks. You're a terrible little monster. Buddy. Go bother your other parent. Joy says, I want a scrunchy neurons fur. He's so soft. He's so soft. I always thought about a pet octopus. A pet octopus would be really cool. They're also very smart. Cats and dogs are just pillows with legs. Yeah, although sometimes they're very bitey little pillows. Okay, so yeah, let's build up a little bit more of this color. And can we build up around you? Can we build up in here maybe? So we want to build up some darker colors up in here. And it's just sort of experimenting with these. Like it's gonna be a little while before this looks like much. Sort of at the messy stage here. The other thing I'm gonna start doing is blocking in some of these shadow areas, like in between these mossy bits. And so I'm gonna be using some of this green and just a hint of the Nicolazo. Here, okay, we can go back to here, move the terrible masking fluid out of the way, and we can start painting in some darker areas. Feed me, love me, hold me, feed me. Cat, dogs, lifestyle, eat, poop, sleep. You forgot help. Yes, Neuron is convinced that everything needs his help. So I'm blocking in some of the deepest shadow areas in here. And so this is going to look sort of weird and maybe a bit wrong for a while, but this is how we're going to eventually find the shapes. Yeah. So I'm building up the biggest contrasts first, which of course is going to make it look really weird and awkward, and then I'm going to sort of build up towards the middle so that I still have these bright white highlights, and also some areas in the middle that are more of the real color of this thing. It's fun watching the process through the it looks wrong phase. Yeah. Yeah. It's not fun for me. For me, it's like it's hard enough to do this when like nobody's watching. To convince myself that this is gonna work out. It's like, I swear to all of you this is gonna work out. I'm not sure. Probably. Most of these things usually work out, but I was like, look at Lee's confidence, such a professional. Haha. Confidence. Fake it till you make it. So now I want fairly bright color. Like, let's try this. Oh, this is getting a little muted. Hey. These paints also stay pretty wet because I've been picking at them from the same palette always, which is, it's interesting. It's been weird to get used to. Yeah, okay. So, how are we here? Let's add some more water. Let's get some more of this green. I need this to be brighter. I hate the it looks wrong stage as I realize it's going to take a long time till my art actually looks decent. Yeah, I mean, I've got to the point now, I think, where usually I can sort of like remind myself that, yeah, this is always does this. It always goes through this. It's gonna look bad. Don't worry about it. It'll look better later. But, I'd be lying if I said that it doesn't still get to me a little bit. And it definitely is getting to me more in the context of like this, where I'm showing it off to other people. Like, usually this would just be the stage where I'm alone and I'm just trying to push through whatever's going on here. But okay, let's try to build up these middle shapes. So in here, let's try to make something like that one. Okay. I feel like I need to build up a little bit more of this, or we dry it. Okay. Yeah, okay, so those are mostly dry. So I'm going to wet this whole area. And I feel like I've built up too much of the little detail. I've got too caught up in that. And I still need to sort of build up another layer here. And so I'm just going to paint around just those reddish spots. And again, add some and we're going to add a little bit more of the shadow tones in some specific areas. And then we'll build up the shadows again better later. If you deployed a box on your desk, having a designated kitty containment unit on the desk is often attractive enough to allow for long distance helping. I have a box on the floor. My dog is just looking at me as I eat chicken. Sometimes my dog just rubs his face all over the blankets for no reason. I'm going to put you all in my pocket as I venture out for food. Okay. Buy 10 pounds of cheesecake to satisfy me. I agree. I would like some cheesecake. Joy, you listening? Cheesecake, please. Ev says not a cheesecake person. Yeah. I mean, Ev, I'm with you. I shouldn't be a cheesecake person, but the thing is, cheesecake is delicious. So it makes me really stinky. But sometimes when I'm like really feeling sorry for myself, I still eat cheesecake. Joy says, I'm only venturing to the kitchen. Would porridge be an okay replacement? And yeah, I mean, if it's like really tasty porridge, I would settle for that. And that says, I was lost in the cat's Instagram for 10 minutes. I guess I need to go to bed. Yeah. Yeah, it's getting late, isn't it? Okay, I am trying to get a little bit more of this process for you. Since we're, you know, at my my ugly phase here. But basically, I'm going to build up some of the darkest shadows and then some of these midtones, and then try to find shapes in them, is what my strategy is going to be here. If that makes sense to any of you. Then I'll probably clean up the edges later on with some I will probably then clean up some of the edges later on with some ink. Although I don't want too much ink on this side because I do want it to stay very green and lush looking, and I don't have a green and lush looking ink yet. I like cheesecake, but the baked kind. The other kind made with gelatin is kind of meh. I kind of like the gelatin kind, I'm not gonna lie. Actually, you know what? I'm kind of liking this thing where I am, this paper's kind of wet, and so I'm painting in shadows, but they're spreading out. And I'm kind of liking that because it's taking some of the pressure off and some of the weirdness about, like, I don't like the shapes that my brush is making. So that's kind of neat. I feel like there's two different kinds of mosses here. I hadn't really noticed it until I started painting, but there definitely is two different kinds of mosses here. They're all mixed up. That's really neat. Maybe till tomorrow at Ev's stream. Those are some gorgeous greens, Lee. Thank you. But cream and gelatin isn't cheese. I think he means cream cheese. Snack talk. Woo! I will not disclose how much Nutella has been consumed this week. I mean, I don't blame you. I consume Nutella as stress relief as well. Joy says, I like a dark chocolate cheesecake I used to make, although made it more with dark and milk chocolate combination until I had to pay more attention to my likely immunity issues. Well, Alex. Joey says, I hope you all didn't mind the tissue too much while it's in my pocket. Did I hear you say that's hemlock, Lee? Just the little needles. So like these little guys, and over here, these little guys, those are all hemlock, but the moss is two different kinds of unknown bryophyte. I haven't identified them yet. Oh, cream cheese, that would make sense. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, cheesecake is always made with cream cheese. But you can make no-bake cheesecakes that are just cream cheese and gelatin and sugar. We need to get you the 10-gallon bucket. We do! We do! I have her address. I could ship Alex some like from Amazon US. I'll use my my Amazon affiliate income. Haha. That's what you need, Alex. The 10-gallon bucket. All right, so next up, I need to stare at this for a while and figure out what's next. I'm a little overwhelmed, to be honest. I don't know how to paint this moss. Is hemlock litter ubiquitous over there? In a hemlock forest, which is what we were in, yes, it's very ubiquitous, but it does depend on, you know, what kind of forest. So we have a few different predominant forest types in our area. So some of them will have more deciduous trees, like oak and maple, and some of them will have more pines, like jack pines and hemlocks and stuff. Maybe you need a break. I think I need a break. I think I need a long break. I think I've been on for a long time, and so I think this might be the end of the stream, because this needs to dry and I need to think about what I'm doing. So I will see you all tomorrow, and I will keep you updated on what happens with this. It was lovely hanging out. Thank you. Oh, remember to like the stream. That really helps me. If you would like to hang out throughout the week, I have a Discord channel. The link is in the video description. If you need something to do tomorrow, Ev will be streaming on her channel. That's also linked. So she starts streaming at 2 p.m. Eastern, so same time as today, but on her channel tomorrow. And yeah, take care. Thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.